You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast, hosted by the founder of Better Beings, Michelle Zellner. Michelle's experiences have equipped her with knowledge and perspective, and for nearly 3 decades, she has been informing, influencing, and inspiring thousands on their journeys. This show spotlights guests of diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise, but they all align with Michelle's purpose and passion to help you be a better human being. There is something for everyone on their way to a healthier, happier life. Enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning in to the Be a Better Being podcast. It is February 17th. You're listening to episode 131, and I'm pretty amped up for my guest. Dale Benedict is the owner of the training studio established in 1996 with a vision to change people's lives using a comprehensive approach to fitness. His emphasis on functional dynamic movements, core strength, balance, and body stabilization has created an exciting and successful program not only on a local level with 2 studio locations in Louisville, Kentucky, but also on a worldwide level with a DVD series called Snow Angel Fitness. His college education, as well as a host of wellness-related certifications, serve him professionally as well as personally, using his knowledge, expertise, and passion to learn firsthand what it takes to push his body to its limits. Over the last 25 years, he's completed over 35 marathons, 8 Ironman events, and multiple ultra running events. Dale Benedict, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Well, this is going to be a real treat for all of us. I want to give the listeners a little bit of backstory. You and I grew up in the same town, Winnicott, Wisconsin, very small. We weren't in school together. I think you're 2 years older than my sister, but your brother is 1 year older than me. And, you know, when you're from a little tiny town, eventually sort of everybody's connected to everybody. And my sister one time said to me, you know, you should check out what Dale Benedict's doing on Facebook. I feel like you guys are really aligned with what you do. And I think you might either be able to connect and do something professionally, or at least it's nice to know other people in your profession. So when I looked at your Facebook, I was like, wow, this is pretty wild that here we are from little tiny Winnicott, Wisconsin. We haven't known each other at all, ever. And we're almost doing the exact same thing, which is kind of cool. So I want to go back and just give the listeners maybe a little bit of an idea of what growing up in Winnicott, Wisconsin was like for you, where health and fitness played a role, and then we'll get into exactly what you're doing these days.
Okay. The health and fitness part didn't really play a role in that young of an age for me. I was more about trying to hang with friends and just surviving and trying to be with the popular gang and that aspect. I wasn't physically gifted. And I knew that going in it, but I was bound and determined to hang with the cool crowd. So I would do whatever it took and work my butt off to be able to still hang with them. And I still played sports. I did everything else. I just didn't excel. You know, my little brother took that part of it all. He had the athletic genes from that side of it all.
Well, and I would say, at least from my perspective, the cool kids were the jocks. Right? The athletes, the basketball players, the football players, the wrestlers. So what sports did you end up doing in high school?
I just did basketball and football. Excellent. And that was really about it. I did a little bit of baseball in middle school, but just basketball and football. And then I turned into the recreational side of things with cycling and running and things like that later on after high school, after I moved away.
And so post-high school, was it college, military? Let's dive into a little bit of that, because clearly your adult life has been very heavily focused in the fitness world. And I want to get into, like, where did that come from and how did that all come to be?
Yeah, so I started in college with everybody else, and I graduated a little bit early like you did. And I would think I was probably just a little bit too immature to go to college at that point. And I lasted about 3 semesters and realized this was a bad deal. And a lot of people from my graduating class went to the same University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh, and it was a bad scene. I needed to get out of there and have a new environment. So I signed up for the military. And I went into the Navy from that standpoint and did all my different schoolings in Norfolk and in Tennessee, all over the place. And I landed in Florida. And when I was in Florida and I was finishing up, I had a 4-year stint. I was finishing up my stint. My whole grand plan was to get enough money to use the GI Bill and go back to college. And I wanted to prove to my parents that I wasn't as big a screw up as I was when I was in high school there. So I wanted to prove it to everybody else. So before I left, about 6 months before I was out, they put me in charge of the fitness training testing for all of the Navy guys that I was around. And they thought, this guy's on his way out. He's somewhat fit. He runs a little bit. He knows his thing. Well, that was what started the whole concept for me. I was excited about what entailed there. And I helped these guys. I tried to help them move forward. I said, just do a little bit here, a little bit there. I tried to just push it. I didn't know a lot because they threw me in this position, but it was enough to get my juices flowing and get excited about it. So then when I got out of the military, I went to school. I was going to do electrical engineering because I was an electrician in the Navy, and I did that for about one semester and thought, that's it. I'm going through this exercise deal. I got the bug, so I went to the exercise physiology standpoint, and I did a little bit of the business side to learn about how to be an entrepreneur, things like that. And then I just did a double major with sports management and exercise physiology. And while I was finishing up my college career there, which was much later than everybody else in my class, but I graduated when I was 30, I used my final marketing piece to submit to the bank for funding for my idea. My idea was to do a boutique fitness center that was not around at that time. There were only all the big box gyms, the Northeast Wise, the Planet Fitness wasn't even a thing at that point, but it was just these big, huge gyms. And I wanted a smaller gym, a smaller environment where people didn't feel uncomfortable going into it and just do like small groups and private training. And I got my funding. I got my first, I think it was $10,000 I used that to buy a treadmill, an elliptical trainer, a rack with some dumbbells and some barbells, and the rest is history. I opened it up and it got crazy.
And for context, that's about 25-ish years ago. Is that?
Yeah, 26.
26 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
A lot of people, I'm sure you run into this, because they're younger than us, they have no idea that 26 years ago, what is happening now was not a thing.
Yeah, not even close.
Right. And I think that's one thing that I found so fascinating about you and I mean, 28 years, 26 years, we're kind of pioneers. And here we are in, early to mid 50s. There's not a lot of people in this cohort that have had longevity in this career. And I think we need people in this cohort for that, right?
I totally agree. Totally agree.
And I'm sure you find this too, that maybe the younger generation doesn't want to listen to me. Well, people my age don't really want to listen to a 25-year-old. And I know I got that when I was that 25-year-old training my 40 and 50-year-olds thinking, well, I'm just going to make them work out the way I work out. Why wouldn't I do that? Right. So let's go back to those very early days. You opened this boutique gym, which again, listeners, that wasn't a thing. So this is very forward thinking. How was that received, and where in the country are you doing this at that point?
So I was doing this in Louisville, Kentucky. So I was finishing up at the University of Louisville, and I had worked at a somewhat small gym, but it was one of those gyms that had a bunch of the selectorized pieces of equipment around the room, very little free weights, and then a bunch of cardio equipment. That's it. And I worked there part-time, and the lady that ran it, she always told me, I will take care of you as soon as you graduate. You just help me out by managing the place. And I was working all kinds of hours. I had a young child at the time, married with a young child, and things were hectic. My wife was working full time. We were exchanging schedules. So it was very busy. But as soon as I graduated, I was like, okay, here we come. It's time to take care of me. Let me be your general manager or whatever. And she's like, well, I can't really afford it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go out. I'm going to use my business plan that I just submitted. I got funding from a bank. I'm going to be a personal trainer in this city, and I'm going to open up a small boutique gym. And she said, you'll never survive in this city. I've already tried it. It won't work. Well, I still send a Christmas card to that lady every single year, and we still stay really good friends. She has since sold the gym and moved to North Carolina, but we still stay in contact, and she laughs every time she gets my Christmas card because I wish I could put my revenues that I'm getting in there as well. I didn't want to rub it in too bad, but she understands that I'm still in business. So her advice telling me I couldn't do it was telling me that I wanted it even more. So I was in a gym, one of her gyms, and I met 2 or 3 ladies in there, and I told them my idea. And she owned a spa, like a little nails, hair, all this, a massage, all this stuff. She had a room that was separate away from her spa that was for yoga only. And it was in a little strip center. It was on the second floor. And I'll never forget, it was above a hair salon. But this hair salon had such of an older clientele. She's like, you don't have to worry about noise because they won't hear anything anyway because they're much older. So I had to go up these big stairs to go in there. And this is where I took my half cage and my treadmill, my elliptical up there, my free weights. And I didn't have enough. It was 600 square feet. I didn't have enough space to do anything. So I would go down the hallway where there were 4 other businesses. And the largest women's high-end boutique was right on the end of this little kiosk here. So I would get in the hallway and have people doing lunges with barbells on their back and kettlebells, all kinds of different stuff out in the hallway. So all these women in this little boutique were started talking, saying, what is he doing? I want to be part of it, blah, 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 blah. So fast forward a year and a half from there, I got so much clientele, I moved a block over and bought a building and built it out to have my own first studio. And I still own that building at this time. So that building has 2 floors, 1,000 square feet on the bottom, 1,000 square feet on the top. And it's still operating like it was. But just because of that little tiny connection of having all these high-end clientele in there buying all these high-end women's clothes, and they just happened to see what I was doing. I was like, wow, this is just crazy. I mean, it was a perfect time, perfect scenario. I'm very thankful for everybody that gave me the opportunity, but it's been a fun road.
Well, and I think you created that opportunity, right? By being willing to not wait until you could have the perfect space. I think that's maybe a roadblock a lot of entrepreneurs get into, right? They got to have it all perfect before they start. And
Correct.
There's a good chance you're never going to start if you're waiting for it to be perfect. And so you took what you had, you did the best you could with what you had. You were willing to make it public and for those clients to get out there in the hallway and do it. And yeah, visibility, location. Like that's such a big piece of all of it. But it's, I think, also a testament to you that there are these women seeing other women doing things and they want to go do it too, because some would be like, I don't want any part of that. Right. So my guess is the people you were training were seeing results. They were having fun. They were getting a really great return on their investment of time and money and energy, which is probably really what the catalyst to all these other people wanting to do that was.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Great assumption. That's exactly how it worked. Everybody was seeing the results that they were shocked with, and they were started spreading the word. And then it was one shopper here, one shopper there, one shopper here. And it wasn't just that I was in that proximity. It's that the ladies that they were talking to after the fact were saying, you know, I've been with him for almost a year and I can't believe the changes, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to walk into that big box. I'm intimidated when I walk in there because I got all these little tiny girls with G-strings and all this other stuff they're wearing. I don't want to be in that environment. I want to be in a private environment where it's just me and him or me and 1 or 2 friends. And this is perfect for me. So, and at the time, that wasn't a thing.
Exactly what I was going to say. And it wasn't really a thing for women to be strength training either. Right. It was all about the cardio. And I know because I was the same thing, cardio queen. And then I was like, oh, I have a master's in kinesiology. I should probably do this whole strength training thing a little more seriously. and so again, like now that's all we hear about, right? Oh, muscle is so important. Strength training is so important. And you and I are like, like some of us have known this for a long time, but yay, everybody's there now. Woohoo! This is good.
It's nice to be justified finally from everybody else. But
yes, exactly. So along the way, how did your own commitment to fitness evolve? Now you're a business owner. I know what that's like. Sometimes I don't have the time to do what I want to do, but you own a gym. You probably spend a lot of time there. And as you're aging as well, how did things evolve and change, and what does your own fitness look like along the way?
Yeah, that's a great point. So I started that thing and I got a little bit busy. I built that other building. Once I built that building, I had somebody approach me. So I think I've done 2 marathons at that point. So I had a running group that is like a side gig for my business called the Training Studio. So on the weekends, we would train in the spring for our big Kentucky Derby Festival half marathon. I would put a program together, put a whole training schedule together for everything they do during the week. And they would meet with me just on Saturdays as a big group. And we had a lot of years, over 100 people that would come to my studio on Saturdays. We put the schedule out, and me and my business partner at the time would put arrows out at every single intersection. We would put water every 2 miles, and we would just treat these people like gods. And then we would travel around the country and do different marathons together. We went from Mount Rushmore to the Disney World to some of them did Maui. We went all over the place as a group and did these marathons together. So when I started this, I had done like 2 of the marathons, and somebody confronted me, one of my older gentlemen who was about 10, 12 years older than me. He said, I'd love to do an Ironman. I said, you know what? I'm in. Let's do it. I said, guess what? I'll train you. I'll do it with you every step of the way if you pay for my entry. He's like, done. So that started a bug that I started swimming more. We started cycling together. We found other cycling groups. So then I created a cycling group in addition to the running group, just because I was already training for it. So everybody thought, well, Dale's training, I'm just going to jump in with him and ride with him. So we just kind of made it easy. And I didn't go crazy with it because I knew it was my first one and I'm feeling everything out. And I knew I wanted to get my customer across the line. That was the whole point of it all. So we did Ironman Wisconsin together and stayed with each other in the water. I don't know how we did it in the water, but we found each other in the water. We got on the bike together, stayed relatively close, and we ran every inch together and crossed the finish line together. And from that point forward, I probably had 35 people from Louisville that traveled to Wisconsin to watch us. And they didn't know anything about me other than they were my clients. So they knew my spouse and my kids or child at that point, and they knew Greg, the guy I was working with. So they traveled there. And when I saw this, I'm looking back on it saying, my God, these people came here. They don't have anything to do with this race. They just wanted to see us succeed. So I got the bug to do. So then I went on to do 8 Ironmans in the next 10 years. And I didn't do them with clients anymore. Now it was my turn. So now that I got all the training under my wing, I kept doing the marathons. So I did roughly 2 marathons a year for those 25 years. So we always did a training marathon where we wanted to get the full distance in at a slower pace. Then 4 weeks later, we did an actual full marathon that was at our race pace. So I did that every year for roughly 25 years and then interspersed the Ironmans in between there. So I learned so much about nutrition, how to push the body. And like I told you from high school days, I was not a gifted athlete, but I will outwork anybody out there. And that's what I learned how to do. So I learned how to do my nutrition absolutely perfect. I did strength training 24/7. I never stopped strength training through my whole training plan. And I still have people come to me today saying, hey, I need you to coach me, but I'm going to take 4 months off of strength training. It's like, nope, find another coach. That's not me. So it's one of those things. I was such a huge advocate for strength training to keep it going. And I really think it's the only thing that kept me going throughout that whole deal. There was no, obviously I shifted periodization on my off season and went a little bit heavier with weights and a little lighter on the cardio, but you shift through it and you just still keep doing some kind of different version of strength training in addition to your endurance training. And now that I know all the research and everything that's out there, if I had the wherewithal to do it again, I wouldn't do as much. I wouldn't do as many marathons. I wouldn't do as many Ironmans. They've now proven that a mini marathon is about the max that you need capacity wise. Everything else beyond that is just aging your joints. And now I'm figuring that, so now I can't run anymore. So now imagine here I am for the last 4 years. I have a running group that's still very popular, but I can't run. So I have to go every Saturday and say, all right, everybody, good job. Let's get together. Let's get motivated. But I can't go out there with them. So now I started rucking and I started doing more cycling, things like that recreationally. So I don't compete anymore. I still keep doing a lot of the activities, but the running just got pulled right out the rug, right out underneath my legs. And it was mentally, that was a huge deal. It was such a huge component of my life. And now that I look back on it, I was like, why did you have to do so much? But you get sucked into there. And I got all these 100 people signing up every 6 months to go do another race and travel with me and go to Savannah and Mount Rushmore and all over the places. How could you not get sucked in? But, I guess it was a good career move and it helps and it's still going. But physically, your body only has so much in it. You just have to be smart about it. You have to be careful with it. So now I do a ton of mobility, a ton of things like that, focus more on my nutrition and focus on other things instead of doing super long activities. So it's
and I think, it goes back to that cohort I talk about all the time, the YBI, Young, Beautiful, and Invincible,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm great. Why wouldn't I do 5 marathons a year? Or why wouldn't I do 3 triathlons a year? Look how tough I am. I feel good. This is my mental health and it's connections, all those amazing things, without thinking about how this is going to affect your future self.
Correct.
And I mean, I know people that are older than me and have been doing these things for a long time. And I know at some point their body is not going to appreciate it. But it is really hard to pull back from something that you have passion for, that is how you get your social connection. It is how you maintain your fitness. And it brings so much value into your life. The thought of not doing it, it sort of is like, I'm giving away my identity. And I can understand how that is a really difficult decision to make. Maybe hearing your story, somebody will think, okay, maybe it is time to back off a little bit. I did the Honolulu Marathon twice. I did the Honolulu Tin Man Triathlon once.
Nice.
Simply to check the list. That's it.
Yeah.
Bucket item, done. Never have to do anything again, ever.
Yeah.
I think doing those things is really great for perseverance and mental, physical toughness, knowing you can make a difficult challenge, accomplish that, and just how that makes you, really feel a sense of fulfillment. And I also understand what these things do to our body, and it's not great. It's not.
Yeah, it's not. I totally agree.
On the flip side, doing nothing is not great either. And that is where I would say the majority of the country is, right? Doing little to nothing. So here you are now in your 50s. Obviously, things have changed because of physical limitations and understanding the aging process. I know one of the things that I saw you post about was, I believe it's called the Restoration Project.
Correct.
This program that you have, and I would love for you to talk about it, because I am a huge cheerleader for this. I want every single guy and every woman who has a guy in their life that they care about to do this, because we need healthy, strong men, and we don't have them. We don't. Trust me. As somebody who lives in a bubble of Colorado, we don't have very many of them here either.
Yeah.
As a percent of the population, right? So talk about what that is and why you even decided to create this program.
So the barrier initially, as you talked about with males, is that they always, especially this age group, they already know it. They get it in high school. They don't need anybody else to guide them until they do, until they get to a point where they can't function like they normally do. Their knees hurt, their back hurts, and then all of a sudden their energy starts dropping. And then, it goes down a slippery slope where then your confidence drags and everything else. So I start seeing a track record of this over the last probably 10 years of what's going on with these males. And I started, when I first started, when I was talking about that women's boutique, probably 90% of my clientele were females at that point. And then all of a sudden they start bringing in their boyfriends and their husbands and everybody else. And I started working with more and more and more because they were pushing the concept on it. They would have never done it by themselves unless they knew somebody, unless their wife or somebody pushed them to it. So I started working with them more and more and more. And I started to get a little bit more of a connection. And then I hired a coach probably 3 or 4 years ago to help me build my online presence. And the coach put me through a bunch of homework drills. And those homework drills were, okay, who would you work with for free? Who would you love to spend 24/7 working with? Blah, blah, all this different stuff. And I had to write it on paper instead of like typing it or texting it, whatever. I had to write it all on paper. I did probably 15 different questions. And all of a sudden, a light bulb went off. It's like, oh my gosh, every single one of these answers I just put forward were all males. I need to just focus on just males. That's my avatar. That's my custom clientele. I need to start focusing on that. So then I put a lot of my energy, or almost all my energy, into building this program around this new avatar. So I put a bunch of mobility in there. So now I'm really, the fun part about it is I'm training myself. So I am that avatar. So the stuff that I went through, granted, they didn't do some of the stuff I did, but I have a lot of the same issues that these people are having, and they've never done anything. That's the sad part about it. And you get somebody, I've had several people coming to my gym now that I get them down on one knee and they got to grab something to pull up, and they're 45. I said, this makes no sense. But when you sit at a chair in an office all day long and you go home and your kids are wanting you to do this and do that. You get on the floor, then you can't hardly get off, and you got to crawl up on the couch to get up off the floor. It starts finally sending little red flags in their head that, look, I need to do something, or else I'm not going to be able to play with them as they get older. So men are starting to get it. They're slowly losing that whole persona of, I'm the big tough guy. I just want to bench press. I just want to do that. I don't want to do any squats. I don't want to do anything else. Well, they're realizing that that's not the case anymore. So I built this, it's called the Restoration Project for Men. So the whole idea is that I will restore joint function, restore energy levels, restore functional strength, and then confidence along with it. So this is not rocket science here. This is just basically consecutive movement patterns over and over and over and over on a regular basis, and then teaching them how to eat properly. And as you know from your books, protein is unbelievably manipulated in this system where people do not eat. I bet you if I had 10 people I talk to right now, 9 of them are under eating protein. And not just females, it's males as well. And it's sad that we're in that state. But as soon as I get them up to those levels of where they're eating their correct amount of protein, guess what? They stop overeating carbs and they stop overeating sugars. I think they don't have enough room in their stomach to add that other stuff. So why even bother with everything else? So it's not, you don't need to eliminate carbs, all this other stuff. So anyway, it's just changing the protein levels, getting them a consistent mobility program over and over and over. They're doing something, and it's just 15 minutes a day. But it's something getting them on the floor, moving their hip function, moving their knee function, doing some different stuff for their low back, things like that, in addition to a strength training program. So I ask them, and I interview everybody. Everybody's not a candidate for this. If they have to be able to work, they have to be coachable. And that's a big deal for males. They have to be able to listen to somebody else, tell them what to do. And that's a problem a lot of times. So I bet you 35% of the people I interview are not a candidate. I try everything I can to try to make them a candidate. But you know what? In the end game here, I still have 2 gyms I got to run. This is kind of a side gig for me. I hope this is where my future is going, where this online program. But I don't need the business right now. I'm not going to just take somebody if they are not perfectly qualified, because it just sets me up for failure if I'm not getting them correctly. So I will turn people away. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people that have a lot of money. When they say and you say turn away, they're not very happy about it. They want to just say, I'll double your price or whatever. No, that's not the point. I don't need the money from that part of it. I just want to help people and I want to make them change. So, and they asked me what was the differentiator, and I just tell them, I don't think you're coachable, or I don't think this, I don't think that. Think about that and reach back out in 3 months and let's talk about it. Let's figure it out and see it, because I don't want to turn people. I want to make a change. I want to make a change to this thing. I don't want all these people going down like this. These people are way too young to have this much dysfunction and not be able to move and play with their kids. So that's my entire awareness on my Facebook page, everywhere else, is I want people to age gracefully and be able to do activities without modifications and without issues. So if somebody calls you up and says, hey, I want to go on a 5-mile hike, you shouldn't say, well, I got that bad knee and that bad back. I could probably make it 2 miles. And you're under 50. I said, that's sad. You should be able to go on a 5-mile hike. Or my kids want to go on a 20-mile bike ride. I could never make it 20 miles. I said, come on. I said, you got to be able to live your life without all these modifications, without all these changes. So that's my soapbox. Now I'm pushing that aspect. I want to change this male population. I want to push forward and get them healthy again. And it's working. So I started it probably a year and a half ago. And I wanted 10 clients and I got 17 right off the bat. So I was so fresh into it. And this is what turned me off to it now, is I got so many people initially. Some people kind of got lost in the tracks. I didn't interview as good as I should have interviewed. I should have paid more attention to it. I was taking everybody that was excited about it. And now that I've been doing it for a little while now, I'm like, okay, that's it. I don't want this to happen again. I'll streamline it all and make it work right. So I have an online app. The online app I build out the nutrition program. So I give them a 14-page report that is customized to what they filled out in their form for me. And it gives them I don't do measurements for carbs, fats, all this stuff. It's all the hand stuff. So it's the precision nutrition use. So you use your palm for protein, use a cup hand for carbs, you use a fist for your vegetables, and a thumb for your fats. That program is sent out. It's initiated into their app. So then I put in on their dashboard their protein grams daily and their calories daily. So it's looking at them in the face every single time they log in. So they have the option to log their food in there, put all their information in, then I can see exactly what's going on. They can use my Fitness Pal, whatever source they use. It all links with the app. And then their Apple Watch can be linked with the app. Their phone can be linked with the app, so I can see how many steps they're getting, all this other stuff. I don't put a lot of emphasis on the cardio side of it all. It's mostly mobility, strength training, and then the nutrition aspect. And guess what? When they pay attention to their nutrition part, guess what? Their energy starts building. It starts changing. And then all of a sudden, when they see a little bit of a change with their strength and their energy, then the confidence starts changing. And it's a slippery slope, and it goes the correct direction every way. But some people have to do more emphasis on certain aspects than others, and that's where the customization comes in. So when I'm interviewing these people, I want to understand mentally where they're at. So there may be people that come into this, and there may be 6 weeks where they don't do any strength training. I'm just building them mentally up to get ready for it, where I'm doing some body weight stuff and mostly mobility, get them some confidence where their joints don't have to ache all the time, and get them eating correctly. Then, okay, now let's go in the gym. Now let's do this when they're ready. So, but then there are other people that day one, I put them right in the gym because they have some experience and they know what they're doing, and they build on it from there. So there's all different phases, and that's what you don't get when you go to a magazine or you go to a huge conglomerate app, things like that. Nothing's going to be customized. And these little mom and pop shops like myself, everything is 100% driven from the data you gave me, and that's how we're going to make it. So, and it could even be like, hey, Dale, I'm 1 week in and I cannot figure out how to get an extra 10 minutes out of every day. I'll completely shift it around. I was like, let's switch days. Let's do this, whatever. Nothing is ever set in stone. And that's what I like about it. And I like people to be happy with it. And if they're not happy and they're not comfortable with the schedule and things like that, it's not going to work. So you have to be constantly adjusting on the fly. And that's, like I said, the huge difference. There's 1,000 magazines, there's 1,000 apps out there you can buy, and go out there and do it. And the people that are not candidates, that's what I'll tell them to do. Go buy a book or buy some, and I'll recommend some books. Use those, follow those, get in a situation in a program, then reach back out to me. We'll go from there.
So you have really put the personal back in personal training.
Yes.
There is a lot of personal training that is not very personal. And as somebody who likes to observe and watch it, I see it all the time. I love the approach. I love the idea of interviewing the clients and being willing to turn them away. I think as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, it's so hard to say no to somebody who wants to pay you. And yet when, you get to a point in your career, now there are certainly times in career you say yes to everything because you got to pay the light bill, right?
Right.
It is a really nice place to get to where you can be picky. And I think it's a service that it benefits both you and the client, right? Because it's not fair to them either. When they are truly not ready, they're not going to succeed. So not only are they not setting you up for success, they're not going to succeed either. And that's going to start to have a very negative impact on their own mental health and their own efficacy and their own belief that they can actually achieve something. So I love that you go through that interview process and that they ask, well, why not? And you give them those things to think about, because everybody is in a different place. They do have a different expectation. They have this different idea of, well, he just needs to give me this program and then I'll have this outcome, thinking that, there's no nuance to anything. Right. And I think it's a really, really great way to help somebody truly evolve, because if they really do want to see a difference, they're going to take what you said and they are going to reflect and they are going to think, maybe I do need a mindset shift. Maybe I do need a different approach. Maybe I do need to take my ego out of it. And if he wants me to do something with 5-pound weights instead of 25-pound weights, maybe he knows what he's talking about and I should do that.
Right.
Yeah. So at 40 and up, is that roughly like the cohort you're working with?
That's where I kind of settled on. I mean, I'll take female clients. I'll take clients from all over the place if they're the right candidate for the program and things like that. I just kind of pigeonhole my marketing pattern to the customers that I really want to work with. I'm not going to turn other people away if they are good candidates. So I do have females in the program right now currently that are getting great success out of it. It's just my marketing and my ploys and my strategy is to go after the 40 plus. That seems to be where the focus of my career, young kids, and then, oh shoot, I'm in trouble. I can't move like I used to in college. I can't do this, can't do that. I need to start making a change. And if they wait till they're 50 or 60, then it's not too late. Like you said, and everybody said, it's never too late to start, but it gets much harder because there's a lot more things we need to erase from that point. Yeah. So my goal is to catch them when they first figure that out and they're at that transition point, and then just kind of go from there.
And I would tell me if this is right. Some of them feel like this kind of stuff is like for sissies, right? Like, I'm a tough guy. I need to be lifting heavy weights, doing all this mobility stuff. Like, that's for old people. That's not me. Is that like a mentality roadblock that you see? And if you see that, any ideas and tips on how to bust somebody past that idea?
So I do see that. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I see that more and more So I say 40 and over, and I'll get somebody that's 35 or 30 or maybe 28, and somebody will recommend it to me and say, well, they're old for their age, blah, blah, blah. Those are the people that are having this issue. They're not there yet. They're not having some of the joint dysfunction and things like that they will if they continue down the path they're at. So they're still of that mindset that I can push through this, I can do this, I'm invincible at this point. Well, they're really not, and they'll figure that out later. But I have to let them go. I can try to explain it to them, and if they're not understanding it and they're not conducive to it, then it's like, okay, this is not a good time for you. Just keep doing what you're doing, and then call me in 10 years, and we'll talk, and we'll figure it out if I'm still doing this. Yeah. But yes, I do come across it. If I screen it enough, when that's 40 and beyond, rarely do I get it. Maybe 1 out of 10 will get that, and that's usually an ex-college athlete that still gets to hang out a little bit. They're lasting a little bit longer than the general population because of their history, but that's few and far between from that point.
Well, and as somebody who was a competitive gymnast for 10, 12 years of her life, those things creep up. And so while maybe for this gap of time you are more fit, then you're going to get to the point where you get 2 new hips when you're 48 because of your gymnastics career, right? So there's a lot, again, it's like all of these things that you can't ever imagine are going to be you, because you just think about the way you always used to be, or, the things you used to be able to do. And well, why won't I be able to do that forever? Well, because that's actually not the way the aging process goes. The sooner you start taking care of things, the better it's going to be. The longer you delay, the more work you're going to have to do in that time that you have. I think also because like these things like mobility and, working your core and alignment and all this stuff, it's not sexy, right? You're not going to like look in the mirror one day and see a difference. And we're so conditioned as a society to need to see a difference. I know, I'm sure you do this. I really try to help people focus on the feel. Do you feel different?
Yeah.
And eventually when you feel different, you're going to start to look different. That's the thing. But nobody has patience these days. We just want this right now. I want to be that.
That's part of our marketing problem and our marketing business and everything else. They've created that issue with society. But I'll tell you, we have this thing with this training studio that we used to do. We don't do this much anymore, but we had like kind of like a quasi Olympics once a year. All the customers would come out and we compete against different exercises. And it was planks and there was rowing, it was all kinds of different stuff. And I'll never forget, there was one year that the top 5 people that finished the longest in the plank were above 80, between 80, 82, 84. And now I have these customers that send me people, physical therapists, and they get these kids in there that are 20, 24, 25 years old, and they can't hold a plank for 30 seconds. And I have an 84-year-old that will hold it for 2 minutes, and they're a female, which is crazy. But it's sad that you're right. They don't put enough emphasis on the core, and everything we do in my little gym situation is all functional based, where you're using your core for pretty much everything. You're not sitting in a machine and doing a bench press, or sitting in a leg press and doing a leg exercise. You're doing some kind of functional aspect of it. And nowadays, That's what needs to happen. That's what translates to all these everyday activities, or leaning over and grabbing your groceries and things like that. You have to pay attention to farmers' carries and planks and all this stuff that people don't do. And I'll tell you what, everybody in my gym knows this, but if you get people off the street and ask them to hang from a bar, it's crazy. People can't do it for more than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They have zero grip strength at all, and they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. It's so sad to see.
And part of that is because we've eliminated PE from schools, right? Like all of these things that you and I grew up with, the presidential fitness, catches and medals and things, and those were a big deal. And for the most part, I would say in most schools, those things don't exist. And hopefully we're going to come swing back around, right? Everything old is new again. So all this back to basics kind of functional stuff is coming, like all new age, like, oh, this is new. I'm like, no, this isn't new. This is like the early stuff that used to exist. And I think sometimes just not worrying about like the sexy, cool, latest, newest gadget and newest best workout. Let's just go basic. Like, just be basic. It's fine. Basic is good. Start there.
Totally agree. You and I need to start the new trend.
Let's do it. 2 kids from Winnicott. I mean, come on. We're gonna behind like sovereign state days that Winnicott is known for being left off the map. We're gonna put another stamp of Winnicott on the map and making our mark in the wellness and well-being space. Because, I mean, as much as you and I preach to the choir, which we do, that's often who's coming, right? People who are already doing it, they just want to be more and better.
Yeah.
We need to get the people who aren't doing it. And that is the biggest population that would benefit so much, even from just very small things. And I think sometimes, again, in our heads, we have this idea that I have to do all of these things in order to make a difference. And I can't do all the things, so why bother doing anything?
Yeah.
And that's not the way to go. Like, little things can make a very big difference. You just have to be willing to do the little things consistently.
That's correct.
That's the key, right? It's the consistency of things.
Yep. Very true. Yeah. It's overrated or underrated from that sense. People don't pay attention to that. But you could do 3 different exercises every day for a month and get quite a change out of that. I mean, obviously you got to change it up a little bit here and there, but like you said, that consistency is key for a lot of things. Yeah.
Well, Dale, I love what you're doing. I am so glad we're connected. I do have I have a feeling we're going to be something. I don't know what it is, but we need to. That's it. We're so aligned in our ways. And, from the male and female perspective, like, there's so much that I think we can offer. So let's manifest that for 2025 and beyond. I think it's going to be great. I feel like I need to come out to see your studio. It seems like it'd be a really fun time and just get to experience what you're doing. So maybe I'll have to put that on my vision board that I want to have happen in 2025.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah. Anything before we officially wrap up that we haven't covered that you want the listeners to know?
No. I mean, I guess if they want more information about my program, what's going on, they can just go to my Facebook page, and I'm sure you'll have links and things like that, or they can go to my website for the gym is thetrainingstudio.com. I forgot to send that to you, but they can get all the information about how we train, what we train, why we train, things like that. But it's really about it. I appreciate you having me on, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, perfect. We'll definitely put all of your information in the show notes. And listeners, I'm telling you, if you have been holding back from doing something, if you have a man in your life that you are trying to get his butt moving, please reach out to Dale. I guarantee it is going to be worth it for you. As I said, my mission is to help people be better human beings, physically, mentally, and emotionally. You heard Dale say almost that exact same thing. He just wants to help people. We just want to help people be better. We get one shot on this planet. I mean, you got to do your part, right? Yeah. So that you don't get into that woulda, coulda, shoulda, or you're regretting because you can't play with your grandkids, or you can't go on that hike with a friend, or you can't go on that, big trip to Europe because you physically can't do it. You're missing out on life if you don't have your health. And if you don't invest in your health, you are not going to have your health. That's the way it goes. So that's my soapbox. Everybody, thank you for listening. Dale, thank you so much for hopping on. And listeners, now you get to go and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. We hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.